Here at Game Changing Dads, we know how tough it can be to stay motivated to be a good husband and a good father. That's why each week we bring you honest, real discussions about how to lead, love, and live. If you're looking for ways to take charge of your leadership role at home, visit GameChangingDad.com to find helpful tips on how to stay focused on your number one priority as you maneuver through the demands of your career.
On today's show, I will be interviewing my good friend, Charlie Campbell, aka Charlie Tuna. Charlie and I go way back to our roller hockey years in Berlin, New Jersey. Charlie is one of the nicest and hardest working individuals I know. We also share in the roller coaster ride with the dot-com boom and bust between 99 and 2001. Charlie is currently a licensed health insurance agent and helps entrepreneurs and business owners with their health care needs. Charlie, welcome to Game Changing Dads.
Awesome. Thanks, Ray. I'm pumped to be here, man.
Awesome. Well, we're super excited to hear about your story. And even though we go way back, I don't know the roots of who Charlie Tuna is. So I'll tell you what to do. Let's take a snapshot of your life, starting out where you grew up, childhood, education, kids, and let it roll.
All right. So I was born in Willingboro, New Jersey. South Jersey guy, grew up watching the Flyers, Phillies, Sixers, but born and raised a Steeler fan since I've got some roots out in Western PA. So lifelong Steeler fan, and still love to bring my girls out to Heinz Field and watch some Steelers games. But grew up just like a professional sports kid, man. I just all the buddies would come over. We'd play football on the front lawn, hockey out in the street. That's what we did. Didn't like school a whole heck of a lot, but I went in, did what I had to do, got the grades. Always knew that was going to be my ticket to get to where I needed to go. One unfortunate event that happened to me as a kid, and certainly has an effect, as you can imagine, is I lost my mom at age 9. Really early on, and that was a tough thing. But I had such a great community, and still so grateful for all those meals and invites to spend the night and all those cool things that those are the types of things that affect you for your whole life, and to the positive. And my friends and sports and all that just kept me on the right track, my entire life, because I knew, I wanted to be successful. I knew it was going to be, my personal obligation, eventually my duty for my family to be successful and someone they could count on, and, have all those things that maybe I missed out on, in that situation. So, but eventually I got into college, did that for 4 years and got out and got into the business world after that. And, still had some great friends, and Ray, that we hooked up a few years after that, after college, started playing a lot of hockey and just kept going with it. Sports have always been a part of my life, and it taught me a lot of lessons about perseverance and hard work. And, just, you can always get better at something. You can always get better at work. You can always get better at that sport. Now I'm playing golf all the time competitively, and, state tournaments, that kind of thing. And that kind of drives me. And, also at work, I bring that same competitiveness to work every day, trying to get better, trying to help those around me, trying to be a good point guard, helping everybody else out, but at the same time, being a player myself, in what we're doing in there. So, now I've got a family. I've got 2 girls, a great wife. My wife works really hard as well. So we're juggling things, juggling schedules all the time. So there's some pros and cons to that, but overall, we're raising a great family. We've got a nice place to live. Sarasota, Florida is a great place to raise our family and continue to push our careers forward. How's that?
That is absolutely perfect. And I love your analogy. You were involved in sports, and I think there's probably men out there that have a sporting background, but all of a sudden they'll get into a job, get into a business, and they may not have all the positives right off the bat. And what they forget is, we didn't win every championship out there. We got up when we got hit into the boards. When we had a bad tournament or a bad game, we got up and made it happen. And I meet, just so many people out there, they think they can start a business or get into a new profession and think, hey, everything's going to be awesome, but they forget about their roots in sports. And I love that, because I was very successful in sports like you are in golf right now, but that wasn't all the case. When you started playing golf, was it an easy thing for you, or did you have to go through your trials to become a better player?
I watched some people play golf, for instance, and these guys were the same player for 10 years because they always did the same thing. They showed up on Saturday morning, hit a couple putts, went to the driving range, hit that same slice over to the right every single time, and nothing ever changed. And, I showed up and could barely break 95, which is not a very good golfer. But I wanted to be good. I saw that there were state tournaments, and I said, I want to play in the state tournament. I want to qualify for the state championship. I bought a book. I took some lessons. I made like a studio in my basement where I set up a net and, had a bucket of balls, and I would hit in the wintertime when everyone else isn't thinking about golf. I was hitting a couple hundred balls a day into that net and made a putting green with my father-in-law. And, next thing you know, my scores are in the 80s, then they're in the 70s, and then I'm qualifying for states, because it's putting your mind to it of getting better. And sports I learned at an early age that you dedicate yourself, but you dedicate yourself to doing it right. I didn't watch hockey games. I analyzed hockey games when I was a kid, and I was just one of those things. And in the morning I'd jump up, I'd grab my stick, go out in the street and stick handle. I was a decent stick handler, right? That was one thing I had, even when I couldn't skate that good, putting the rollerblades on the first couple of times, but I could stick handle, I prided myself on that. But eventually I learned how to skate, right? Came out there every Thursday and skated with you and played in the leagues. And, eventually I was, skating with the big boys, but I just was dedicated. I was obsessed. Getting better.
Think about that. What a great nugget. So, instead of just showing up on Saturdays and just putting in your, I guess your golf game, you set up something in your basement, you're hitting balls, you're getting better. I mean, I love that because like I said, I think a lot of us miss that. It may be relationships. It may be communication with our kids. It's almost like people put everything on cruise control and just think, hey, I want to be a great hockey player. I'm going to show up to that game every week, just on Saturdays, but I'm not going to do anything the rest of the week. And that goes with personal growth, listening to podcasts, reading books. And I love that because I knew, like when I had a chance to try out for Team USA in 1995, I mean, I literally 5 to 6 hours, Cruisetown Shopping Center in the parking lot, going through probably a set of wheels every night and just at it. I had 6 months to train. But, what's the old hockey analogy? First one on the rink, last one on the rink. And it's usually your best player. Love that. So
Yeah.
how do you train, I guess, with that competitiveness? You say your wife has the same thing, which is great, and that practice. So you have 2 teenagers right now. Do you see that getting passed up to them for the work you put in, especially with golf right now? Do you see that in your daughters?
Well, absolutely. And I'll add just one more thing because you're bringing it out, Ray. The things in life, the things you pay attention to and put your attention on in life are the things where you're going to get good results. And you said some people, whether it's the golf, I'm just showing up, or people coasting through life. And then next thing you know, and everyone has problems. Everyone has something in their life they would like to have better. So not to say that, but it's more about when you may talk to someone cruising through life, you say that analogy and it's like, what problems is that person having in their life? And it's probably something they're not putting enough attention on. Are they putting enough attention on their marriage? Are they putting enough attention on being a good dad? Or maybe it's just, hey, I stink at golf. Why am I not getting better? Well, we're really paying attention to what you're doing with that game, or we're just acting frustrated because you're showing up on the weekend. So if you want something better in your life, my advice would be make sure you're putting good attention on it, and then make sure it's the right attention as well. And you're taking good advice and applying it to that.
Now, do you think, and I love that, and, one of the things we have over here at Game Changing Dads, we have, mastermind groups going weekly, and it's a handful of guys that are kind of, the two key words I bring up in our meetings is accountability and action. If you want to move ahead in life, you need to be accountable to someone, whether it's your whether it's your partner, whether it's you have a group of friends through a Bible study or a mastermind group, it doesn't matter. But accountability is huge, and action. And like you said, it's easy to just get complacent and just sit around, but it's so obvious. Well, I've been through so much. It's obvious. Okay, I need to work harder over there. Well, I'm slipping over here. I need to put the time in.
Yes,
and I think, especially for guys, it's almost like we come to the table, and like I said, if you have a spouse you can share stuff with, that is awesome. But I think a lot of us just kind of keep things in. And that's where, my wife brings the vulnerability out. And that's where mastermind groups, and I would imagine you had some kind of network. And I mean, we can go way back to, when your mom had passed, that you had so many people pouring into you. You had that network early on. So you got it. Because I know there's a lot of guys out there, and I was that guy. I grew up, great family background, but, my parents were like, just don't just trust your family. Don't really trust anything out there. I mean, what a horrible way to live. I love my parents. I don't want to disrespect, but it was almost like you do your own thing and don't worry, until I got introduced to Robert Kiyosaki and just entrepreneurs and business owners that wanted to help. And when you start growing that network, I mean, if you're falling, you're going to get that network of people, that support system that's going to just drag you through the good and the bad in a positive way, which is great. And you can use that. Your
parents wanted to tell you to be careful, right? Your parents wanted to tell you to be careful, but it's, it can be too much sometimes to tell you not to take risks and go out there and meet the right people and build that big network.
Absolutely. Yeah, no doubt about it. So we talked about, your kids a little bit. So let's go back to your move from New Jersey to Florida. How old were your kids, and how did that scenario play out?
It's something that, we had vacationed down here a lot. My wife's grandparents had a house on Siesta Key, which is a key right off of Sarasota. She had vacationed down here all the time, her whole life. She wanted to come down here. It's something we had talked about a lot. And for us, I had always wanted to come down here too. I mean, why wouldn't I? Play golf all year round. It's great. Houses were the right price. New Jersey was getting a little insane. We were kind of done with the weather up there, all that. And really what it came down to, we went through that nasty market crash back in 2008 into 2009, just a complete meltdown. Things had changed quite a bit. I mean, I was, pretty much ground zero of that market crash. So I, absorbed that. I had a super successful business, great people to work with, everything going. And I woke up one day and I said, a lot of things are changing right now. I said, let's get out in front of this. Why don't we make the move? And I mean, literally, it was something that was bouncing around in the periphery for us in a while. And one morning it was front and center. We said, let's do it. Took about a year for, the whole process, get the house ready, get the house sold, find a house down here, all that. So it kind of started slow, and then everything came together. And, we put our intention on it, and we made it happen, and we got the right deals on the houses, and fortunate to sell our house when we did and get this house here when we did. It all worked out good. The girls were good for it, but we also knew that window was closing. We wanted to do it. Both were still in elementary school at the time. So we were able to pull it off. And, now they love it here, and it's here. So.
Awesome. And yes, you've referred to elementary, and great age to do that. Cause I could imagine my 10-year-old as maybe in high school, especially with all her friends. There would be a little bit of a meltdown there. And the reason I brought that scenario up, I love guys. That's why I was very excited to bring you on to the show, because you're an action guy. When you told me, okay, I went, from, stockbroker to, health insurance rep, and I'm just like, cool. And I remember your move down, and just a mover and a shaker. Cause I think there's so many, there's folks out there that want to do it, but, they just like, oh man, well, I've lived in the same area for so long, like I heard from my Philly friends, like, oh dude, you're born in Philly, you stay in Philly. And I'm like you said earlier, the weather, dude, come on, really? And, the only reason we're down here in Florida, I almost said North Carolina. So we went Pennsylvania, North Carolina. And my wife said, 11 years ago when I married, we wanted the beach. She wanted the beach. I was a lake guy. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, 2.5 years ago, she's like, hey, here's what it looks like. All right, do you want to go visit the area? No, let's just move. Okay, we sold our house in North Carolina. And we literally moved to an island, sight unseen, house unseen. But like yourself, hey, it's time to make some things happen. Because what I don't want to get to, and you can probably agree with this, 90 years old. And I say this to my mastermind groups all the time. We wake up 90 years old, maybe we're on our deathbed and we're just kind of breathing a little bit and we're talking to our kids or whoever's around. I want to have that conversation going, there was nothing I regretted, man. It was awesome. I made some financial, but I had a great life. I took action. I made stuff happen. I made the best, like you said, competitiveness, putting the time and effort into things. And, I want to be that guy. I don't want to be the guy going, oh man, I wish I would have. And then all of a sudden, 100 down, the list goes on and on. Don't want to be that guy. But great job taking action. So do you want to talk?
100%.
You want to add to that? Go for it.
Well, when we bought this house here, I actually had not seen the house except through pictures. My wife saw it. She took a bunch of pictures, and she said that, when she came into the house, the people were still in there. They kind of rushed through it, but the realtor got back in and took like 100 pictures. I said, I love the house. Let's put a bid in. And she's like, I really like it. If you like it, I like it. The area is perfect. Let's go. Let's do it. We've been, horsing around long enough. Let's get in, let's find a spot.
Awesome. So shout out to the wives making it happen. And
Yeah,
us men being open-minded, because it's funny. I was, I had business up in Virginia, North Carolina, brand new business. And as soon as my wife said, here's where we're going, I'm like thinking, how can I do this? And all of a sudden the roadblock came up, blinders came on. And I'm like, and then all of a sudden we sat down at the dinner table the next morning and we just walked it out just like you did. Hey, we can do this, took our time and made it happen. But man, I'll be honest, as much as I say I love change, it's scary inside. I don't like to show it outside, if that makes sense.
Well, yeah, absolutely. And, the thing is like, hey, you're born in Philly, you stay in Philly. Well, I think that's kind of a comfort zone. Those people are in their comfort zone. They never leave their comfort zone. And getting out of your comfort zone and taking some chances is where all the opportunity is.
Absolutely. Taking chances and opportunity. Love that. So let's go into your change of jobs into the healthcare. Totally. I don't want to say 180, 360 or whatever it may be, but how did that go for you?
So as you know, I was back in the 90s, we were called stockbrokers. When we got into 2000s, everybody was a wealth manager, financial advisor. The banks started buying up the brokers and the brokers were buying up the little RIA guys. And, the smaller firms like us that were finding these deals and doing these, 30, 40, $50 million IPOs where we had a real niche, kind of getting squeezed out of the market. But I had a good business, up till about 2008. And, things started changing. Then I moved down here and I was continuing to do what I was doing. And it was doing good, but wasn't like what it had been, but that was okay. And then I hooked up, I was playing golf and, and I'd been doing a couple interviews with some banks, for, wealth management, business development kind of position where I'd be a good fit. Because down here, I really didn't have the network. So I did want to go out and get the network. I didn't want to expand. So I started looking and, eventually through, a golf friend, he said, well, why don't you come down and check out our place? So I went down there and it was a bank and trust. And I was there for about 3 years doing really well. Thought it'd be a place I'd stay for a while. It was a nice salary. There was some upside. I was never going to make like my millions there though. And I was kind of feeling at that point, well, I'm probably going to be looking for an out at some point. And one day I got called into a meeting. It turned out that meeting, I found out that someone came up from the headquarters and their job was basically to tell everybody in the firm that had my position. They were going around to about the 4 of us that covered Florida and basically saying they eliminated the position. So as well as I did for that company and, never had a day sick in 3 years and as well as I did, they were grooming the company to be sold. As we all see, banks are getting bought and sold and so forth. And that was my day. Got a little severance package and, here I was about, probably a little over a year ago. And, I was out of a job. I had to go home and tell my wife. And, my kids, of course, would, eventually hear the news and it wasn't easy. Inside, I kind of knew that eventually that would happen, that I would be looking for a different opportunity. But at the same time, timing is never good. Sometimes you just got to do it. This time it was kind of dictated to me. So it is what it is. And, I kind of spun my wheels through some opportunities, trying to make some things, and my wife had her objections to like, well, are you sure you want to do this or sure you want to do that? Well, I'm not married to anything. I can do what I want. Let's make some money. Let's see what may happen with some of these opportunities that may or may not have some upside. But as it turned out, I really didn't hit it good, for about a year. Things were coming together, paying the bills, all that. My wife was working really hard, but she deserved more too. But at the same time, I didn't want to say, okay, well, I'm going to go take that small salary and get the 401k and a couple of days off and all of that, because I felt like I'm going to plug myself into something where I wasn't bringing out all the potential that I had. And then I found the company that I'm at now. And again, it was one of those where it's like, go in, build your own business. You're an independent contractor. You know, you're working for a big company, a company that is being presented to you as a great place to work. So you have some skepticism. You have a lot of hope inside that everything you're seeing and hearing and reading about is going to be what it is. And, you know, Ray, wouldn't you know it, I got in there, and within 2 weeks, I said to myself, this is the place. And I had old clients that said, why are you going into the health insurance? I mean, it's a mess, and Obamacare and now Trump care. You know, why would you go there? And Ray, it's one of those things where if there's total chaos, sometimes the opportunity is so big that the diamonds are just in there underneath all of this smoke and debris. And I'm with a company I'm so proud of, the products that we have. We're helping people every day. It truly is a blessing to me and my family. My wife's attitude has completely changed. You know, she's totally 100% behind me. You know, the faith in me is, the bucket is filling up, where before it was kind of like, you know, I need things to happen. I want things to happen. I know what your potential is, but the family needs you. And, you know, my time came. You know, maybe the grace of God came in and said, Charlie, it's your time. Now, learn everything of some of the struggles you went through, you know, after having a really good run of it for 15, 20 years doing what you're doing. But now you've really learned, when you've kind of struggled and looked and prayed and hoped, here it is. Now hit it hard. And I mean, it's just been wonderful. I got a little long-winded, but it's out there for people. Find the right vehicle that you can get in, you know, find it, keep your faith, do the right thing for your family, you know, along the way, but always keep the door open that you can find that right thing. And if your job you're at, you don't like, just leave it better than you found it. Leave that job that you had that you don't like, and there's plenty of you out there, I know, leave that job better than you found it and transition into something. You know, if you got to take a little risk, take it. You know, the timing will never be perfect, but at some point you got to make that leap of faith. And, you know, I'm really fortunate. It's still new. It's still fragile, but I'm in a great place.
Well, congratulations. You know, we haven't touched base in a long time, and just your whole scenario, but, you know, willing to sit down with your wife, and the writing was on the wall. You kind of knew it, but just having that conversation and saying to yourself, you know, hey, I need to do what I got to do, and just kind of putting faith, putting prayers up there and making it happen. Like I said, congratulations. That is an awesome story. No doubt about it. So you and your wife are working now. So we'll get back to the family. So how are we, how are y'all juggling things? You know, what is there, you know, any kind of things you try to do regarding sporting events with your kids? You know, do you have certain nights carved out for certain things? Like, how does that work?
Yeah. And that's a great question, because, you know, now we're going, how do you make that family work? And, you know, now I've been at my new gig for about 10 weeks or so. I'm working some serious hours. You know, it's summer vacation, makes it a little bit easier with the kids being home. My daughter just started driving, so they got a little bit of freedom now and they can move around, which is cool. So yeah, you know, it's daily communication with my wife. Now my wife, you know, she flew to Tennessee. She had a meeting there. Then she flew to Atlanta. She had a meeting. She had a dinner. You know, I just talked to her. She was going to bed in Atlanta. She's waking up, has another meeting there, coming back. You know, my daughter had practice tonight. Fortunately, it's close to my office, so I pick her up after I'm done. I work till 7:30, picked her up, came home. You know, you're on the schedule for tonight, you know, so we're doing this, you know. So it's a constant communication. My wife and I definitely plan some things. My conversation before we hung up is, hey, we're going to go out to dinner on Saturday night, right? So, you know, so we plan that out. We're going to plan some things to do with the kids during the days, on the weekends, and you know, I'm probably going to go have some ice cream with the kids when I'm done with you, you know, kind of chill out with them. I know you're on your sugar thing, but, you know, I'm going to enjoy my kids tonight. So, you know, so we'll probably have a little ice cream and have a, you know, conversation and wrap up the day, because I've been working some long hours. But it's communication. We're constantly in communication, because my wife's traveling. I'm working long hours. We want to, you know, keep the kids on the narrow. And we're so fortunate. We've got my mother and father-in-law. They live 6 houses down the street.
Awesome.
So,
Yep.
and they're
That's huge.
wonderful people, just fantastic people you can look up to, and they'll come down and help the kids or bring dinner down or let the dog out and, all that important stuff that just has to be done.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I love what you talked about, just scheduling things in, not letting life happen. Because if I wake up in the morning and don't have things scheduled in, I mean, all what is going to break loose. But you're scheduling your dinners and you're scheduling your time in, and you're making it happen. And communication is huge. I love that. There are, I think, a lot of couples out there that don't have that communication. And all of a sudden, whether it's a job loss or, communication regarding the kids, and all of a sudden it just, the family unit starts kind of, just floating away, and they start losing track of what's happening with the kids. But communication all the time, especially with kids and spouses, is huge, especially nowadays. It's a key component. I've been blessed to work from home. My wife, and if you don't know our story, my wife just started working full-time last year from home. So we're both home, but it's crazy because she's locked into our room 8 hours, where I'm trying to, get 30 minutes in here and there between watching a 3, a 7, and a 10-year-old, and everybody's off from school. Woohoo! But communication, hey, we're doing this, we're doing that. Hey, let's meet over here. Let's have dinner, which is huge. That is awesome.
Very key there. And, you had mentioned there, the family dynamic and, your life, all the dynamics in your life kind of start drifting away from you. And, I can tell your audience, I lived that, lost my job. The communication with the wife started getting a little bit more, tense, things like that. And, again, I had said that with this opportunity, you learn so much, and you go in and it's God's way, or the world's way of telling you, take every advantage of the opportunity that you have now and everything that you've learned, from the challenges you went through from career, family, obviously the career thing, it turns into financial thing and all those challenges. So just learn from it, man. Pick yourself up from the bootstraps, learn everything you have to do every day. Opportunity is not as far away as you might think. And I am living proof of that. You have to wake up and you have to fill up the faith bucket yourself, because sometimes there's not going to be someone else there that's going to fill it up for you and say, you can do it. Sometimes it's just you.
Yeah. And that's huge advice. I mean, you need to put everything on the table, because I know, especially in my past relationships, once you start holding back on certain things, it's so easy for you to start on other things. And then all of a sudden you got a jumble load of junk. And then all of a sudden, your girlfriend at the time or whatever finds out. And then all of a sudden it's not a good situation. So even with we've been, very similar. 2008 was like, woohoo. I'm glad I was involved in it early to that. But, we got hit hard right after 2 years of marriage. But, we always kept the finances and where we're at. We just had a discussion about an hour ago, trying to pull the trigger. We actually did a lease purchase on the property we're at now. Crazy price. And I told I said, we're going to find a way to pull this off in March of next year, because we're sitting on a bunch of equity. But, we need to share that communication. Some of my business is doing great. I'm starting the Game Changing Dad from scratch as of beginning of this year. But like you said, seize the opportunity, make it happen. Is it going to happen overnight? I mean, come on. Unless it's a .com deal, maybe.
Sell it.
Oh man, the .coms. I won't even go there. That's like we'll have to do part 2 of Charlie Tuna, .coms. I still remember getting the calls. Dude, hold on like 3 more days. It's going to go up another 10, 20, 30%. And I'm like, really?
I don't remember that call. I pass.
Okay. Yeah, we can't disclose that right now, but you're good. So let's do this. Charlie, I totally appreciate your time, your friendship throughout the years. Definitely be praying for you and your family to keep rocking it forward. We are going to finish up with our rapid fire. And our rapid fire is, as hockey players, one of my favorite things to do is line all the pucks up at the blue line and just blast away. So Charlie, we are going to blast away on you. And if you have an answer, great. If not, say pass. Okay, the first question in our rapid fire is favorite book.
Atlas Shrugged. Ayn Rand.
Okay. All right. Favorite book. Very good. And I will include all these. If you're not getting it on the podcast, I will include these on the show notes. All right. Favorite quote?
I have two. Necessity is the mother of invention. And you miss every shot you don't take, by the great one, Wayne Gretzky.
Gretzky. Absolutely. That's a good one. All right. Let's see. Number 3, favorite husband moment.
Last night.
Last night. Wow. Do we need to ask for details? Last night?
Yes. Yeah. So it was one of those juggle days, you know, my wife had committed to taking my daughters to this concert, and she was traveling the next day. She had to fly early. So I got her a hotel room in Tampa. I went up, I had dinner with her. Then I went and picked the kids up after the concert, and came home, let her stay up there so she could just jump right over to Tampa and get her flight out and do her thing. And she was thrilled that I was able to kind of create a solution. She knows I've been working hard, but I took an evening off from work and made that happen. So I'm sure there's plenty more, but she was just so thrilled. We had a great dinner together, and then I was able to spend some time with my kids and listen to all their recordings of the concert last night, and we got some milkshakes or whatever on the way home and all that. So more ice cream.
Great one. I love that. Usually it's like, my wife giving birth, or, when we met, the light, the light was just on, but that was great. I love that, dude.
As rapid fire, I got to remember the things recently, man. I'm getting old. I can't remember all that other stuff. That quick, at least.
All right. What are we up to? Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4. Of course, I don't have these numbered. That's kind of weird. Number 4, favorite dad moment.
Probably taking my girls. We went to Pittsburgh 2 years ago for a football game. We went there. We saw some of my family out in Western PA, and I just know they were just so thrilled to go out there and see some of their family members they hadn't seen in a long time. And we went to the Steelers game, and it's just such a great time to spend with my kids. They want to go every single year. We didn't make it last year, but we're totally committed to going back again. So just us getting on the plane, spending time in the hotels, getting them breakfast and kind of showing around the stadium and doing all that, and just us. So really cool dad moment for me.
Awesome. Absolutely. That was great. Okay. Last question. Can you share one piece of awesome game-changing advice with our listeners today?
Well, certainly I talked about, a lot of things I went through. So there was some advice packed in there. Make sure that whatever you're trying to do and you want to be great at something, you have to have frequency before you get good or great at anything. If you can't read a book to become a great golfer, it can help you, it can give you some knowledge, but you're going to have to grab the club and take some swings. Whatever job you're at, whatever you're doing, just make sure you're taking a lot of action to get better at things. And I know you talk about that all the time, taking action. I'm just going to second what you're saying. That's going to be my advice. Make sure you're taking action. Try to get better every day. Be a sponge. Learn everything you possibly can, and do not be scared to take the shot to win the game. Be that guy that wants the puck. Be the guy that wants to make the shot. Be a leader when you have to. Be a teammate when you have to be. And, and just be a good sport otherwise.
Awesome advice. I'm excited. I want to go out and start shooting right now there, buddy. Got me so fired up. One of the little analogies I use a lot. So the old school is ready, aim, fire. I'm a big fan of fire, and then we'll get ready, and then we'll aim, and we'll figure it all out. But keep firing, because here's the deal. The more you fire, the better you're going to get. Almost like the podcast. When I first started this, I took a little course for a couple days. And if I would have waited too long, and I think a lot of people miss opportunities, they'll wait too long. And then all of a sudden, little voices in your head, it was cool 2 weeks ago. Now all of a sudden, Ray, you can't do that. You can't do a radio show. Who are you? You're like a guy from the hood. Really? But I took so much action that I just kind of, it's going to happen. I'm going to make it happen. Awesome. Let me just talk into this microphone and see what happens. But hey, awesome job. It was great talking to you. Before we end this call, can you give us where people can find you?
So they can find me on LinkedIn at Charlie Campbell, U.S. Health Advisors. They can also find I'm on Facebook, obviously, as Charlie Campbell. And I have a business page on Facebook as well, which is Charlie Campbell /U.S. Health Advisors. And that's where they can find me. Link up, follow me, send a friend request. I'd be happy to, hook up with all of you.
And last question. This is just a throwing question. Are you a Pittsburgh Penguins fan?
I am not. all Philly except football, but I do like the Eagles, but I'm a Steelers fan. I like to say I'm like the Cosa Nostra of Steelers fans. You can trace my bloodlines all the way back to the Pittsburgh Steel Mines. So my grandfathers and their cousins and all those that started back there from Pittsburgh wouldn't be too proud of me if I was not a Steeler fan.
Gotcha. And the reason I was saying that, in about 2 weeks, I'm going to have Vince Puglisi on our show. He is a professional photographer that shot Game 6, where the Pittsburgh Penguins won the Stanley Cup. Had some amazing shots that I will, I was going to forward to you, but since you're not a Flyers fan. Well, let's end on the Flyers fan note. So I know we have a lot of Philly fans, and they're against me because I grew up in Philly, and I'm a Pittsburgh fan. Go figure. But, hey, I appreciate everyone being here. I appreciate Charlie's time. And catch us next Tuesday morning for Game Changing Dads. Have an awesome night. God bless.